Okay, welcome back and good morning from Mammoth Lakes, California. This is the Elite Athlete interviews leading into the Mammoth Trail Fest, which is taking place all weekend long. Tomorrow, the 26K, part of the Golden Trail World Series. My name is Dylan Bowman, joined this morning by my co-host MK Sullivan, and we have on the couch the great Max King and Chris Vargo here. And I have a lot I want to talk to you guys about. Chris, let's start with you. Alicia was just sitting in that spot, and she absolutely smashed it at Pikes Peak last weekend. So before we get to you, maybe talk about watching Alicia's return to racing and finishing 7th place at that crazy deep field last weekend.
It was pretty incredible. Yeah. I mean, she takes care of all of us. It's not just the 3 kids. She takes care of me as well. But yeah, that was really special. I know she was really emotional about it, and I was too. I had all the kids up there at 14,000 feet. She's put in tons of work, and you know, we balance life the best we can. I'm a firefighter now, so she's watching the kids when I'm at work, so she's getting smoked then, and so it's really special to see her do the thing that she truly loves. So excited to see her progress on, and excited to see what she does tomorrow too.
All right, so coming back to you, a lot of our viewers probably don't remember Chris Vargo, people who got into the sport in the last several years while you've been like focusing on family and stuff. But there was an era when you, Max, and I were all at the top of our games, and you sort of disappeared for a while. So maybe reintroduce yourself and tell us sort of what you have been up to and what role running and sport has played in your life in the recent years.
Yeah, I mean, I was always an endurance athlete, but I started to burn out from it. I raced bikes from a young age, and I was just always training, and I kind of fell off there for a little bit. And my story is, you may have heard, I mean, some of the younger people, but like I got sober and started racing again, and then progressed pretty quick, but then got burnt out from it. And then we had our first child, Skylar, and I realized that I needed to do something that was a little more secure, and kind of always wanted to be a firefighter, and went down that route, and it's been incredible for our family. But I kind of just fell out of love with it, you know. Like Alicia said, we have so much fun now. Like, I truly love just getting out and running now, and it's started really training running this year again, and had a pretty good block coming in. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but we do a lot of skiing. I did some ski-mo racing, and that started to kind of fuel that fire again. And just might as well jump into one of the most competitive shorter races in the U.S. So we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
I mean, it's one of the most competitive shorter races in the world. I mean,
yeah.
We were just talking about it with Danny. Like, the Golden Trail World Series, all these events now are like full gas and top athletes from all 4 corners of the globe. So you chose a great place to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good. So the training's been going well. But like we were just saying, we're the old guys. I think the last time we saw each other was in 2013. Was way too cool. And he got first, I got second, and then the next year I ended up winning because he wasn't there. So
I remember that.
I was just thinking, this ex-biker, man, he can't be that fast. And then all of a sudden we're trucking down a road at like 5:15 pace.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'm like, oh God, I can't keep up with him.
A lot of good memories, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
So what are you most excited for, like, for the Mammoth course in general?
I think, you know, everyone talks about the altitude, but we're actually about 2,000 feet lower than where we live in Breckenridge, so it actually feels pretty good here. I don't know, it's going to be fast. I'm going to see how fast we could run. I'm looking more forward to the climb than the descent, so I'm going to try and go hard on that, and then kind of hold on the way down.
The lead-in into the climb is going to be pretty fast, but if you have, I mean, you live 2,000 feet above here, like, you have the legs for it, you could really eat some people up if they go out too hard.
Hopefully, we'll see. I mean, we have all these young guys that are ripping, so we'll see what we can do. Yeah, just go as hard as I can. Yeah.
Max, we need to bring you in here. we were just talking. I was like, man, it feels like you've had sort of like a quieter season. And you're like, no, I've been so busy, man. I've like been all over the place.
Racing, like running racing
Right,
wise, it's
that's
been
what I mean.
quiet. I haven't done that much this summer, but
Yeah.
it's been like, I had 5 weeks at camp and big adventure race over in Faroe Islands. It took 4 days, but I was over there for 2 weeks and just got off an adventure race this last weekend. So it's like, I feel like I've been just like going. And it's like, I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't done a running race since like June, like Broken Arrow
Right.
time frame, like right before that, I guess. And so yeah, it's been a while for the running stuff. But
Well, talk about the intention behind that, because like between ski-mo and adventure racing and the frisbee golf competition you did last week, I mean, there must be some intention when you're like sort of thinking about what you want to do during the course of a season and you're building a calendar. You've always been somebody who's dipped your toes in adventure racing, obstacle course racing, great on trails, roads, like you're the ultimate Swiss Army knife. How do you come to those, decisions of what you want to do?
That's a really good question. I really wish that there was more intention behind it. There usually is not. It's kind of like one of those things, like I've always done a little bit of everything. Like I'll jump into an obstacle race here, go back to road racing for a little while, and it's like adventure racing is one of those things where I started out, like once I burned out in college, like I started back in adventure racing. Like that's how I got my start back into doing some running stuff. And I was on a rec team, adventure racing, just because it was fun. I was out in the woods. And then I took a 15-year hiatus, and now I'm finally back to it. And it's like this like kind of new sport to me, but I've done it before. And so it feels familiar. But it's a lot of fun because it's all these different disciplines. You're out in the woods for anywhere from 6 hours to 4 or 5 days, and just kind of doing the things that we love to do, like being outside. And so that's been a little bit fun. And, it's like the intention behind it this year going in, it was like, I knew I was going to be trail racing a little bit less, and I just put some of these adventure races on my calendar because we have one of the best teams in Bend in the world, Bend Racing. And so they've been trying to rope me in for years. And finally there was, just a couple races now that I've been like, yeah, I need to do that. I need to get back into that sport because it's fun. I love it. I'm going to just do it. And so that was the intention behind it, is just doing something a little bit different. And just always, that's my MO. I'm always doing something a little bit different, jumping from here to there. And so that's what I did.
So I'm curious in terms of training, because you really have done so many different things this year. You did short trail championships, the classic and the VK championships, short trail championships, worlds, and then you did like an orienteering race, these adventure races, and you're coming back to Mammoth Trail Fest now. Does your training change much from race to race, or do you just kind of like wing it?
Wing it. We just wing everything. No, like with the World Championships, like that was my big like focus block of training going to the World Championships, and I knew that was like very intentional. I wanted to be in really good shape for that, so that was like full on training. And then after that, it's like I get into summertime and I do so many running camps, and training through those is very, very difficult. It's like sure, I'm running every day, but it's not like I'm not training. I'm running with kids and getting them through a mountain adventure, which I'm out there for a long time, but it's not like intentional training. And so I knew I was going into that in July and I wouldn't have a chance to train. In July, I'd say I was in pretty good shape for like high altitude, hot racing. And then in August and the last couple of weeks, I've just been at sea level. So like coming into this, it's like, I don't know how it's going to go. I'm not ready for altitude. I'm not ready for running. I feel very prepared for this race.
You can't ever count Max King out of a race though. So,
but it's like, I like doing all that sort of stuff. Like I know, I can get through all of those things like you were just talking about. Like I did the 24-hour Rogaine Championships with Patty, and it's like, yeah, I know I can go out and just get through 24 hours of just running through the woods. It's like, yeah, I'm in shape for that. I can do that. So, and it's super fun to do this kind of stuff, just jump around. And just without the focused training, I didn't have to like hold myself back from those things because I had another race like this like coming up. I knew I had this at the end of the summer, but I didn't have a lot of chance to train for it. So
Chris, maybe comment about your own training then too. I'd love to hear like, you and Alicia coming back to the sport, what it looks like, volume and intensity, and maybe how it compares to before you kind of got burnt out and left the sport.
Yeah, I think now every time you go out, you have to have more purpose because our time is so limited. I'm also training at the firehouse too, so I'm running on the treadmill a lot, which has been new to me. But I think we've done about the best that we can, I think definitely less volume, but more quality type training. Alicia has always given me ideas of what I should or shouldn't do. But yeah, I think a lot of times I go out and kind of run by feel, and if I'm feeling good, I'll go a little bit harder. But yeah, back when we were racing together, it was more mileage for sure. We didn't have kids, and it was easier to recover. Now it seems a little bit more difficult to recover. I think living up at around 10,000 feet doesn't help either. But I think the winter months are great too, because we ski every day, do some skimo racing, really got into that. And like I was saying earlier, definitely has fueled that fire again.
Yeah, I've been following Chris on Strava for years, and so I've watched him become a firefighter and stuff, and went from big mountain runs to running circles around the firehouse. I'm like, oh, Chris is doing circles around the firehouse today.
Talk about that
for sure.
lifestyle though too, because I have a lot of friends who are firefighters, and oftentimes they work like one 24-hour shift or two 24-hour shifts a week. Talk about that and how you balance it with the family life and trying to get back in shape.
So I do 2 days on, 4 days off. 4 days off are amazing. The 2 days on, in Breckenridge, we do ebb and flow with the season. So in the winter, we're getting smoked. I've had 48-hour shifts where I only sleep 4 hours. Yeah. So that's a hard thing to deal with. And then sometimes you come home after a 48-hour shift and, the kids want to play with you and you're beat, but we find the time to get out and train. So it's good. It's the lack of sleep definitely crushes me though. Right now it's kind of that in between season. So been sleeping more at night. But yeah, Alicia's amazing with taking care of the kids when I'm at work, so it's been good. But yeah, a lot of loops around the firehouse. I don't like to get more than 30 seconds away from the rig, so I either do that or hit the treadmill. Yeah.
Oh god, I just blanked on my question that I was going to ask.
I'd love to hear from you guys as we sort of probably start to wind down here. We've been talking and joking about how you guys are the old guys. Before we went live here, we were talking about our kids getting into various trouble and hurting themselves. We were just talking to Alicia too about the various chapters we go through in life and how running is oftentimes sort of the continual thread, even if we're not racing, it's sort of part of our lives. So anything you guys want to say about just sort of the evolution that you've experienced with the sport over time and what role it plays in your life now?
I think after having kids, I appreciate it even more. I don't care if I get to the point where I'm not racing anymore. And like Alicia was saying, I want to show my kids what it's like to be out in the woods and to really experience that beautiful thing. So that's how it's definitely changed it for me. My priority is my family.
Do you care less about kicking ass and doing well?
I want to say that I don't care, but I want to do well. Yeah. We've been training the best we can this year, so I want to do well. Yeah, I don't think it's really my identity so much anymore, but I still want to do well. I'll always be competitive, for sure.
Yeah, that's familiar. It's every year as I've gotten older, I continually enjoy the sport more. Each year I find more and more enjoyment out of just running. I still love racing. I love competing. I just love beating people. But that does kind of start to change a little bit. Now my son is starting, he's been running cross country for 3 years. Just had his first cross country race of the season on Tuesday, won that by a minute. And it's that is awesome to me. It's now if I can help him and support him in the sport, I don't need to do it as much for me anymore. And I'm seeing that, and it's just been within the last year, because he's gotten a little bit older, started taking running a little more seriously, and really cares about it. And so I've actually noticed that change in me a little bit. I'd rather go to see him do a cross country race than me just go for a run. Whereas, a couple years ago, that probably would not have been the case. It's that's like running's always been that thing. Like I really focused on getting in. And I'm finding now it's like, yeah, it's still important. I still love racing. I still love getting out there. It's still fun. But now I'm looking at it from a little bit different perspective, and he's doing it, and I want to support him in what he's doing too. And that's been really cool because it's still running, you know, and it's still part of me, but also like handing them over the reins a little bit to him, and that's cool. So
Amazing.
My favorite run of the week every week is the Breckenridge Elementary School Run Club on Tuesday and
Yes.
Thursday. Our daughter Skylar's in first grade, and it's like the most beautiful, pure thing. And she doesn't realize how good she has it with the mountains and the back and everything, but that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Amazing, guys.
So I have one more question, and I'm going to turn it on to you too,
Sure.
all three of you, since I'm sitting with the old wise guys here. So a lot of the athletes in this series are very young. They race a ton. They train really hard. And so I guess my one question for you guys is like, how do you keep this sport sustainable? You talked about burnout. Max, you've been doing this for years. I'm sure you burnt out at some point. Dylan, I know you have. Like, how do each of you keep this like sustainable for your mind and your body?
I guess I can take that. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I've never pushed myself over that limit in any given year of like just pushing so hard in my training that I do like feel that burnout. Sure, there's days, obviously, right, where it's like, man, I just don't want to get out there, but you have to if you're training for a big race. From year to year, though, like the way that I structure my training and the way that I look at the sport, I'm always like, I'm just under that line of where I'm kind of breaking down and feeling that pressure. I've always been pretty comfortable in like the amount of running that I do. But the other thing we were just talking about is like, I'm always changing it up. Like I'm always doing something different. And for me, that's both motivating because I'm doing something different. I'm looking forward to something new. But I'm also always learning from like whatever it is that I'm doing, like whether it's like a different type of like running race or the Rogaine this summer. It's like, that was totally new. I learned a ton from it. I learned that I suck at like drawing out like my route, and I got beat by another US team in mileage and points because I took the wrong route. It's like, you know, so now I know. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to try it again and see if I can get better at it. So each year it's like there's tons of things to get better at and learn from, and there's always you're always learning in the sport, right? And that's what has really motivated me throughout the years, and just the joy of just being out there too. So
I think for me is not running year round. I have to change it up. I can't be running in the winter. I like that season of skiing, and then there's the ski-mo racing. I like to ride my bike. I can't just run all the time. I think that's very beneficial for my mind and my body. So we'll see how long we can keep it up. But I just like getting out and running right now, honestly, is the best thing.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me glad to hear that you love running again, because I've never been a worse runner in my entire life than I am right now, and I very much am in peak burnout mode. But I've been lucky to have a very consistent long-term 15-year career. I remember that Way Too Cool that you referenced at the beginning 10 years ago where you two duked it out. And yeah, it's just great to still be involved in the sport, and it's great to, you know, hear from both Chris and Alicia about, like, you know, coming back to the game, coming back to racing after a long hiatus. And God willing, that'll be the case for me here someday. I'll be able to find my groove again. So I
hey
think
man,
it's all.
when you want to do an orienteering race, let me know. Come on
Let's
up
go.
to the end. We'll get
Dude,
in.
how's your frisbee golf game? Let's go
My
play on
frisbee
Sunday.
golf, like disc golf, is terrible. I will not recommend that sport to anybody because, well, I mean, I'm sure some people are great at it. I am terrible at it. Oh, it's like golf for me. It's like, it's the most frustrating thing in the world, but it's fun to just kind of go do something, like just walk around a course. So.
Well, amazing, guys. Well, that was a super fun conversation. Super fun to have you guys on the couch. Best of luck tomorrow, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
a lot
you,
for
guys.
having us.
Excited to watch.
Stick around. Who's next, Matt? Next up is Andy Wacker. So, again, go back to the Mountain Outpost YouTube channel. We'll go live on a different feed here in just a few minutes.